mind, please make sure that you cut your phone, you could put your phones on mute unless you need to ask them a question. So with that being said, welcome. Good afternoon, everyone, community college family. It is a pleasure to have you on. It is a pleasure to see you in virtual, even though I can't see you in person. I can see some of your smiling faces, Mary. I can see you, and it's good to have you on. For those who this is your first time as part of the enrollment management activities, we and myself and the Strategic Enrollment Management Task Force, we like to provide professional development series, a professional development. I am tongue-tied today and don't know why, and I'm on recording being tongue-tied, Jamie. And Jamie can tell you I'm never tongue-tied. But the task force, we really pride ourselves in offering you sessions that focus on maybe not enrollment management per se, but those components of enrollment management and those things that impact enrollment management that helps you make decisions while you're considering how to engage your students, your communities, and your colleagues at the institution. And so we asked Mr. Jamie Vaughn, who is from the Department of Commerce. My mind is gone. He is, we asked Mr. Vaughn to come in and provide you an overview of NC Careers, which is a wonderful website that provides you with all the information around careers in North Carolina. It's a website provide a plethora of information around what jobs that are offered in your service area. As a state, it provides information as opposed to, how much students can make in these roles and everything else. And so we just thought that Mr. Vaughn would be a wonderful resource to speak with you today. And so with that being said, I'm going to turn things over to you, Mr. Vaughn, and I'm going to make sure that I check and send out the PowerPoint presentation to everyone on your calendar. Okay.
Great, excellent. So actually, I just forwarded you a document. I didn't get the PowerPoint because it's big. I'll get it to you afterwards.
Okay, that's fine.
So, but yeah, if you want to go ahead and share that document. So again, hi everybody. My name is Jamie Vaughn. I am a analyst with the Labor and Economic Analysis Division with the North Carolina Department of Commerce, and I really appreciate I really appreciate being invited here today to talk to you. So what I'm going to do is I was asked to talk about nccareers.org. I'm going to talk mostly about nccareers.org, career exploration, how it can facilitate working with your students, and then I'm also going to share some additional resources that LEAD has. I'm going to skim over them really quickly that hopefully you are already aware of. You may not be, that could also be very useful. And I'm happy to come back and specifically target on some of those, how they can be used kind of as a future date. So again, always happy to talk and share the knowledge and the information that we do. So as I mentioned, I'm with the North Carolina Department of Commerce, Labor and Economic Analysis Division. Hopefully you are aware of who we are. If you're not, I'm going to take a real quick minute or so to promote ourselves and kind of share why you need to know who we are. We are a resource for you. We are North Carolina's primary source of economic and labor market data, information, and analysis. So we're something called the Labor Market Shop for North Carolina. What does that mean? That we are the source for North Carolina specific labor market information such as unemployment rates, jobs numbers, wages, employment projections, things such as that hopefully you're using and accessing and helping drive decisions from there. And our group has 4 main functions. Number one, as I mentioned, produce the labor market data. So we're about 40 people strong in Labor and Economic Analysis Division, LEAD, as we call ourselves. And about 20 of us are the ones that are actually generating those numbers. They're gathering the surveys, they're working with employers, and then crunching those numbers to produce them on a monthly, quarterly, annual basis, kind of depending on the data. Number two, we have a IT component made up of a few people that are creating these tools that you access, the information, the data tools. So things such as hopefully you're accessing D4, our demand-driven system, your nccareers.org, of course, some other tools that I'm going to talk about today. We also have a group that conducts a big data analytics. So we have something called the Common Follow-Up System, which is a huge longitudinal database, which combined with the inputs, the wage data, the social security numbers of individuals that we gather in the process of producing labor market information. We work with our partner agencies across state government, again, community college, DPI, UNC system, public safety, workforce solutions, DHHS, folks such as that, and we aggregate all of this data. And by having that information, we're able to come out with outcome data ultimately, which can be powerful at doing some research. For instance, some of the research that our folks in this group have done recently talking around justice-involved populations, outcomes, and what can we, what possible outcomes do they see now? And ultimately, using that information, how can we impact and do a better job in serving those folks? And then finally, it's the group that I'm a part of, where we analyze and interpret the data information and share it. So we do things like this. We talk with folks. We in terms of making sure they have access and understand the information that they need. We write blog articles. We social media posts, do other kind of research, make presentations, and take questions and help provide data specific to customers, ranging from the governor's office all the way down to individual citizens. So, of course, you guys are a great customer base of ours as well, and we're here to help. Now, ultimately, those four main functions ultimately drive with our goal of helping North Carolina make informed economic decisions. So now that you know who I work for and kind of have a big picture idea of kind of what I do and why we exist, let's talk a little bit about career exploration and planning, and as we lead into NC Careers. So again, you guys are aware of all this, so I'm just kind of reviewing it. But again, what is career exploration and planning? You can see the definition there. I really like this chart here on the right. On the right, so it's a career planning chart. It's a circle. It's not a line. A lot of people see career exploration, career planning as a line where you enter in one point, you exit at another. I like it as a circle because, again, a circle, you can enter at any point, you can exit at any point, and you can stay in the loop. The point is it should be a continuous loop. I personally have, reinvented myself 3-4 times maybe over my career so far, and maybe I'll have to reinvent myself 1 or 2 times moving forward. But the point of it is that there are, 5 or so steps kind of in this career exploring and planning process, and kind of rolling through these steps is kind of key. So I really like that visual. In doing a lot of conversations and research and things, there are lots of reasons to explore and plan, lots of excuses not to explore and plan. The bottom line is, and again, I'll point to myself and call myself guilty of this at any time as well, is that number one, career exploring and planning is hard. Anything that's hard, there's a lot of reasons and it's uncomfortable to do. But I think the biggest reason why a lot of people don't do things that are hard along these lines, exploring, planning, is number one, they don't know how. So NC Careers was created ultimately with removing that don't know how excuse. It is a always available 24/7, 365 free access system on the internet that is available and was created for individuals starting as young as middle school to start that career exploration thinking all the way through folks that are, retirement kind of thing. And we wanted this to be an inclusive site available for everybody, really kind of ultimately level the playing field so that everybody would have access to the same information. And again, I mentioned that equity and access is really key. We wanted it for all North Carolinians. And the way that we did that is we had a governance committee. So working with the community colleges, you guys are part owner in nccareers.org. This is a product that is coming out of the Department of Commerce, Labor and Economic Analysis Division. It is not a product of Labor and Economic Analysis Division. It is a product of a cooperative of multiple agencies, including Commerce, NC Works, community colleges, UNC System, independent college and universities, DHHS. All of those individuals, those organizations came together to tell us what needed to be in the system to be effective in the stage for the clients that you work with, for your ultimate customer base. So, and I think we did a pretty good job with that. And so the site's been around for about 2 years, and we've during the summer we hit over 500,000 unique users in just under 2 years. So exciting to do that. So before I kind of get into the system, one thing that I want to kind of share in terms of the equity and the access that's available is you can create an account on NC Careers. Any individual that already has a CFNC account actually already has a NC Careers account. They just need to log in with their current username and password and then click sign in, and they'll have access to everything. If they don't currently have a CFNC account, that's not a problem. You create an account. I don't think it requires, I can't remember exactly. I don't think it requires much more than a name, email, and maybe a geographic county, just for us to kind of track and understand the users. Beyond that, I want to make clear that a login is not required for access, whether you log in or not. It does not limit or increase the opportunities that you have within NC Careers. And it's also free. So again, it's free. And why wouldn't you go ahead and do it? When you create an account, number one, it allows you to save items such as assessment results, your favorite occupations, and more kind of things. So those are really kind of important and just great things. So when you save things, you can always write things down. You can copy, you can print. But the bottom line is if you have the ability to create an account and every time you log into NC Careers, that information that you've already done is accessible, why wouldn't you do that? And also with our partnership with CFNC, the systems actually talk between each other. So work that you do on NC Careers is accessible on CFNC and vice versa. So I talked about, previously I showed the chart of career exploration planning as a circle. The way that we dealt with this within NC Careers is there are 5 main icons, navigation icons within NC Careers of where you're going to access different activities that take you through the career exploration process. And what I'm going to do is for the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to kind of give you a big picture overview of the information that's in NC Careers. Then I'm going to take you through, I created a potential scenario of how a career exploration journey could potentially work within NC Careers. And then like I said, I'm going to share about some other information and tools. So let's kind of dig a little bit more into NC Careers from here. And again, happy to, unfortunately, I'm only working on one screen at this point. I am happy to take questions. If there are questions that kind of go on, Dr. Hickman, maybe if you could, interrupt me or something if you think they're important, or I could take them at the end, whichever works from there and kind of works best for you. So. Okay, so within the Find My Interest section, we have 6 main assessment type quizzes, and I'm not going to go into super detail about any of them, but they all kind of help assess. And the ultimate goal of an assessment is to, and you'll see this in just a minute, there are 793 occupations loaded in the system. The point of the assessments is to help an individual narrow down from 793 down to a manageable number of occupations that can really be researched and kind of figured out. So with Reality Check is something that's been around for several years prior to nccareers.org, and it's a system where individuals are able to match lifestyle choices. So again, what kind of house do they want? Where do they want to live? Family size, kind of car they want to drive, other kind of lifestyle choices out there with ultimate income needs, so that an individual ultimately, after they go through Reality Check, understands, again, based on geography and other choices that they make, how much money they really need to make in order to live the lifestyle that they're interested in living. And while salary is not the only choice, it shouldn't be the reason why you choose an occupation, but it's certainly an important factor kind of within it. Interest Finder is the second one, where an individual identifies their Holland codes. For those of you that may not know exactly what Holland codes are, think of it kind of like a personality test that identifies Holland codes, and the Holland codes then are matched to occupations. So if your Holland codes match the occupations that are also identified with Holland codes, then typically it's going to be something that kind of meets your interest. There's also career cluster match. So an individual comes through and helps narrow down the career clusters, the career and technical education career clusters, by identifying and telling us the activities, their academic interest, as well as personality kind of traits. And so it helps them identify career clusters. The work values sorter, so that helps an individual understand the things in work that they truly value, whether that's independence, recognition, working in teams, things such as that. And then ultimately, by understanding the values that are most important to you, the occupations tend to have more of some of those values and others. So again, a great way to potentially narrow down that 793. Skills matcher is kind of the same thing. Individuals identify work skills that are their strongest, they kind of running through, and then the skills, the occupations, and then broken down by those work skills that are there to again help filter. And then finally, a lot of people like the idea of being their own boss. They may not understand exactly what being their own boss means. Just kind of, they like the idea of being able to set their own hours, make their own paycheck and things like that. But do they understand that, if, for instance, if you're opening a landscaping business because you really enjoy landscaping, you've still got to be your accountant, you got to be your marketing person, you got to customer service, things along those lines. So this assessment is actually adapted from the Small Business Administration. Helps users kind of understand some of those entrepreneurial traits that are necessary to be successful. And then at the end, it gives a score based on a yes or no answer that was provided by the user of whether they are ready, quote unquote, potentially to be an entrepreneur. And regardless of whether their score says they're ready or not, it then provides linkage to resources such as small business centers located on the community college campuses, or these SBTDCs located on the UNC systems campuses. That can help individuals prepare to be resources, to be successful entrepreneurs. Again, it's about setting people up to succeed, not helping them, hopefully, not to fail. Second section in NC Careers is called the Explore Occupations section. So this is the labor market information section. This is the section that I spend my most time on in terms of understanding the data and providing it. As I mentioned previously, there's 793 occupations loaded in the system. Each occupation has something called an occupation profile page. The occupation profile page really is the heart of the site. It's every single career exploration journey looking at occupation should go through at least one occupation profile page. It's where you're going to get all of the labor market information that we've compiled from multiple sources, crossing ONET, crossing to the LEAD specific data, crossing the BLS Occupational Outlook Handbook, Career One Stop, all of these career resources that maybe you're already accessing and using. We put them in one place, kind of sharing that data. It also links out to additional information and tools, things such as that I'll go down into a little bit more specific in a minute, the education and training opportunities that are available, the how to grow your career, things such as that. You can also mark or favorite, as I mentioned, if you're logged in by clicking on the little heart in the top left of the screen that saves an occupation as a favorite. Or there's also a print icon that you can click and print it as a PDF, as a as a formal document or something. And then also geography is really key to kind of understand. So you can change the geography, not just on the occupation profile page, but also on the Explore Occupation table from there. So let me pause for just a second in terms of talking about geography. And again, I'm sure you guys are already aware of this in your own areas. Why is geography important? Geography is important just to understand what's going on in your area. Even if you're talking a few counties over, the economy could be slightly different. Economies are regional. Wages, demand, and growth for occupations are all different. The most important expected to grow occupations in the Charlotte region are different from Elizabeth City or Wilmington or something along those lines. So understanding the opportunities in your area or in the area that the individual who's doing the career exploration may not necessarily live now, but is interested in living in is really kind of key because they can vary. So there are 17 geographies loaded in NC Careers. One is statewide, and just assume whenever you're looking at data that it's statewide until you confirm that it's not. The other 16 geographies are regional geographies. You can see the regional geographies shaded differently, and they're all named by the typically largest urban areas. They're typically the employment centers for those counties. So for instance, you can see that the Fayetteville, Lumberton down there is a compilation of 3, 6, 7 counties, where what the data is telling us is that people that live in those 7 counties typically go to Fayetteville or Lumberton for their employment opportunities. And that data is over that county area. So when you look at this data, don't just assume that you have to live in Fayetteville or Lumberton for that data to be accurate. It's for that entire 7-county region to where that data is relevant and important. So digging a little bit more into the into the occupation profile page, let's kind of talk about a few things that are here. And again, I'll highlight these in terms of how you'd use this information in a career exploration in just a few minutes. But number one, and again, I have a middle schooler, an 8th grader, as well as a sophomore in high school. And if I ever try to talk to them about careers and opportunities, and I mention something, the first words out of their mouth is generally, how much does that pay? Is that a really good paying job, kind of thing? Fine, that's a reasonable question, but so we put that information front and center and very easy to find there on the top left of the page, and you can see that we provided 3 different wages. We provided a range, a lower end wage, a middle wage, as well as a higher end wage. The reason we did that is because it's very important to kind of understand that range. Not everybody's going to get that average wage. You see often, things reported in the media that XYZ occupations get X salary. And so anybody who's working in that occupation that maybe makes less is going, wait, why am I not earning the middle wage? Kind of thing. So there are multiple factors in why an employer pays the wages that they pay. But typically, somebody who's coming out with minimal or no experience, maybe with a degree or something, is probably should expect a salary range closer to that 10th percentile. After 5+ years, maybe, I don't know the answer to that. Maybe they should be looking at something closer to that middle wage. And then after, 20 years, and they're recognized as one of the best and most experienced in their occupation, maybe they can start considering looking at that 90th percentile wage. So understanding that range of wages is really kind of key, as well as opposed to just understanding that middle wage. Hopefully the first question that they're asking that I wish my boys would ask is, what exactly does this occupation do? So we of course put that front top center in terms of information. Again, this was adopted from the Occupation Outlook Handbook and ONET data. So every occupation has 1 to 2 sentences, really quick blurb of what they do, and in terms of, an overall big picture of what an occupation does. And then we also provided those typical duties. So in the what they typically do, those 8 bullet points, those are the typical duties and responsibilities that are done on a regular basis within an occupation. And understanding those duties and typical duties and responsibilities is kind of key, because sometimes it's a little bit different from the image that that an individual might have of an occupation. I'll use a personal example of mine. When I was going into college, I thought that maybe being a college athletic director would be a great thing. I saw them on TV attending sporting games. I saw them hiring and firing basketball coaches and football coaches and things along those lines, and they got a lot of cool stuff. Well, I didn't see the fundraising and the administration and the other things that they kind of went to that may or may not have made me interested in that occupation. So understanding those typical duties would be kind of key to whether an occupation really is something that you truly are interested in. The next question that somebody should be understanding is what are the long-term prospects of this occupation? So in order to understand the long-term prospects in commerce, we came up with something called North Carolina Star Jobs. It's a rating system where of the 793 occupations, I think it's about 700 are rated. The final 100 approximate that are not rated because we don't have enough information to give them a rating, not because we don't think that they're worthy of a rating. It's because we don't have enough information to confidently give them a rating itself. So the occupations that are rated from a 1-star to a 5-star, as you can imagine, 5-star are considered the best long-term prospects. 1-star are considered not the best long-term prospects. The way that we came up with this star rating is there are 3 components. One is average wage. I think that's pretty simple, self-explanatory. Does it pay a lot? Does it pay a little compared to other occupations in the region? Number 2 is growth rate. So again, growth rate is also pretty intuitive. Let's say that there's a Mary employer. Mary employs 5 people working as accountants. Mary hires 1 more accountant. Now she has 6 working for her. That's a growth rate. That's a growth rate of 1 new spot. Then there's also job openings. Now, job openings where it gets a little bit confusing. Job openings I like to think of as a corollary to job postings. So you get on Indeed, you get on NC Works, other online job posting boards, and you see job postings. You don't know whether that job posting is a brand new position to that company. Again, that would be growth rate, or if it's a backfill. Did somebody retire? Did somebody get promoted? Things along those lines. So job openings is a related but different component of STAR jobs. So for instance, let's go back to our Mary Employer example. Mary Employer has 5 people working as accountants. She hires 3. Now she has 6 people working for her. So 1 was due to growth rate, 2 were backfill. Somebody maybe decided to stay home to spend time with their family, or somebody retired or got promoted. So that's how job openings can vary. And it is possible for a occupation to have a high growth rate, but a low number of job openings. So think of a emerging occupation, something where maybe there's only 100 people currently working in that occupation, and the growth rate, it grows by 10%. That's 10 people, right? 10 new jobs. So that would be a relatively low number of job openings, but it'd be a high growth rate. And then the converse is also can be true. So again, we talked about, is it a long-term prospect? The actual numbers and details within the occupation. So you can see that the number of jobs, you can see the growth rate. So application software developers here is growing by 2.8% per year. And then there are annually expected to be 442 job openings. So, what does that mean? Is that a high growth rate? Is that a low growth rate? So you can see that we also have the individual ratings for the individual STAR rating. You can see in this occupation that wages is a 5 out of 5. So that'd be the best. That'd be a 5-star for wages. Job openings is a 4 out of 5. So that'd be 4, not the best, but a very high, 4 out of 5 job openings. And then job growth rate, again, it's one of the best. It's 5 out of 5. So it's key to, sometimes people want to know the numbers, but it's also important to understand the ratings as well, in terms of, because you've got to give some perspective to the numbers. The next question, of course, that a lot of people have, hopefully, is, what kind of education do I need? So again, that's front and center and fully integrated into this. You can see that we put the information, so based on the Bureau of Labor Statistics minimum education standards. For instance, information security analysts, most require a 4-year bachelor's degree, but some do not. So we wanted to term it that way because a little bit soft, because employers, especially in times like now when the labor force is very, very tight, there's not a significant number of people out there looking for new jobs. Employers still have to fill some of these jobs. So in a time when there's a huge labor supply, when lots of folks are out there looking for jobs, employers have the pick of the litter. They can say, hey, I want a master's degree, I want 5 years of experience. But times now when there's not a significant number of job seekers for the number of job postings that are out there, employers are often having to say, okay, I need somebody who's got the skills. Everything else I can figure out. So I just wanted to recognize that within NC Careers from here. So if you do pursue, for instance, for this one, a bachelor's degree, what are you going to get a degree in? Will a degree in Middle European art history suffice to get an information security analyst? Probably not. What can we major in? So these are the associated programs or majors that the data is telling us give you the skills, give individual students the skills to be successful working in a particular occupation. So, for instance, let's just say information technology project management. I'll show an example of this in just a few minutes. In my example, if you click on information technology project management, that'll take you to our program locator tool that'll tell you the schools in North Carolina, whether it's a community college, a UNC system school, or a private college or university in North Carolina that offers that degree. Next, there are many, so I didn't pick an example here with a license here, but there are many occupations in North Carolina that require a particular license to work in that occupation. And if that data is required, it is listed here. Again, another important thing to know when you're looking at programs, if you know that you need a license, look for a education program that mentions that license. And maybe it's an ultimate outcome of the program as well. So we also wanted to provide, again, for full information out there to make everybody informed, there are private training programs. So again, the My Computer Careers, the things like that, that we are not endorsing them, but we did include them within NC Careers to make sure that they are, again, just choice. And then not every private training program is listed in here. We use the WIOA eligible training provider list vetted through the workforce development boards in order to include these. So another question is, again, we talked about education, but also, how can I prepare to work in this occupation? Maybe you're in high school and you're looking at an occupation, or again, kind of pursuing a higher education. We wanted to list the top skills and abilities as well as the knowledges and specialties that are required. So looking at programming for, scheduling and things, help identify the classes that help develop these skills and abilities, and definitely might prepare you more for an occupation. The third section is called Plan My Career. So as you can guess, it's included with tools called Plan, all about planning careers. So there's two major tools, and again, I'll show some examples of one of these in just a little bit. So the first step tool allows an individual to understand those career ladders. So either they're starting with a current occupation or a starter occupation, and then identify occupations that are advancements in their career. Or in the case of the first step, maybe often students will identify occupations that maybe are a little bit beyond their reach when they first start school, due to education, experience, lots of reasons. How can they develop experience? So they can use the first step tool to work backwards, ultimately, to find their opportunities. Then there's also the what can I do with my education tool. So that is a tool that I really wish I had access to when I was coming out of school. I majored in economics because I enjoyed my economics classes. I enjoyed the professors and things. I wasn't necessarily thinking about what occupations it would ultimately tie to. So we created it for individuals in that scenario where they can enter their higher ed program and understand the occupations that program gave them skills for. And it doesn't just give the one-to-one, again, I'm an accounting major, so I can work as an accountant. It takes it a step further. What are those other occupations that you may not necessarily consider that are not direct one-to-one? So again, an accountant may be working as a financial person, or something kind of a little bit next step. So it helps understand those opportunities. The fourth section is the education and training section. So as I talked about, there's the program locator tool, which helps you find the North Carolina community colleges or public or private universities that has your desired program, as well as the find the private training that we talked about with the proprietary schools that offers the certificate training that could ultimately prepare you. Finally is the job search. So again, the ultimate conclusion, hopefully, of a career exploration plan once it's executed is to find a job. So linking with NC Works, where you can find current job listings in your area directly through NC Careers. So hopefully you're kind of looking, actually, let me stop for a second. Were there any questions out there? This is a good place to kind of stop. I've given you a pretty good overview.
I don't think so.
Okay. Absolutely.
Carolyn,
Let me kind of move
visuals
forward.
now. I know Carolyn said she couldn't see the visuals earlier. I think she can now, though.
Okay. Are we okay?
Yes, I can see them. Thank you.
Great.
Okay, great.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move forward. Again, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat, and I'll pause again in just a little bit. And of course, I'm always at the end. We can definitely take them as well, and happy to run through. So hopefully you're kind of thinking, okay, great. There's a lot of good stuff in here. So how can I use this with a student, or how can a student use this, or anybody? It doesn't necessarily be a student. So here's an example that I think could potentially be a pretty reliable one that could be relatable for you as well. So again, a really quick one. So let me introduce you to John here. John is a current high school student. He thinks he's interested in a career in healthcare, is interested in working as a dental hygienist. He's been told that there's a high demand for dental hygienists, but he doesn't know really much else about it. He's also been told that he should pursue a 4-year degree, but is worried about college debt and is interested in maybe working while he pursues his higher education. So how can we use NC Careers? What kind of information can he do that can help him plan for his future to kind of understand? So of course, let's start at our main icon. So first of all, and again, this scenario where John thinks that he's interested in working as a dental hygienist, but he's not sure, but he thinks he's interested in healthcare. So let's kind of, first of all, maybe think about confirming that interest. What can we do? Kind of a great place to start could be the career cluster match. So we can, where we're going to identify his favorite career clusters to see if healthcare really is something that he's interested in. Again, I'm not going to run through the whole assessment, but ultimately he goes through and he finds out that health science really is truly the career cluster that has his most interest, followed by government and public administration. So number one, we kind of confirm, sure, health sciences sounds like something based off the survey and the answers that you provided that would be interesting. So let's kind of move forward with that. So if you click on the word health science, as I have it covered here, it takes you to the Explore Occupation table. And he was kind of going through the Explore Occupation table and he found dental hygienist on the list. He sees that it's a 5-star rating. So he's like, hey, that's pretty good. That's one of the best prospects moving forward. But he also sees the education. He sees that the minimum education is an associate's degree. Okay, maybe I don't need to get a 4-year degree to work as a dental hygienist. So that kind of gets him thinking, looking at community colleges, things along those lines. But then he looks down and he notices he sees dental assistants. He's not sure exactly what a dental assistant is, but he sees that it's also a 5-star occupation. And he also sees the education as a post-secondary non-degree award. So that kind of got him thinking, hey, maybe I could get this. Again, relatively short-term training. I could start working as a dental assistant and maybe I could work on that associate's degree moving forward, kind of, knocking out that potential debt concern and things like that. So he wants to start exploring a little bit about dental assistants. So if he clicks on the dental assistants, he pulls up the occupation profile. Number one, he learns about the wages. He sees that the median wage is almost $45,000 a year. The lower end wage is pushing 33 or so. Maybe we could have gone through reality check to kind of understand a little bit of his need for wages or something, but he thinks that sounds pretty good. He's interested in that. That doesn't concern him or doesn't, worry him. So then he looks at the typical responsibilities, the typical tasks. Those sound kind of interesting. Again, hopefully he's done a little bit of CTE classes in healthcare through high school. None of that surprises him, and he thinks that sounds interesting, especially starting out. Then there's this workplace section. So there's a lot of individuals that want to understand within the workplace section, there's things like, do you work outside? Do you work in teams? Do you need to wear protective clothing? Do you work in environmentally controlled areas? Do you work on weekends, evenings, things along those lines? So that's really kind of interesting and important information to grab as well. So he kind of reads that. And again, everything seems pretty good to him. So again, he thinks about the good opportunity. So dental assistants, as he mentioned a minute ago, he saw that it was a 5-star occupation, which was also very interesting to him. He wanted to understand the wages. So he sees, again, the wage is, not the best, but not the worst either. It's right there, middle of the road. So he seemed okay with that. But again, he sees the job openings and the growth rate are both very high. So again, that's something that excites him, feels that he'd be relatively easy to find a job. To get hired in these things, and then with a high growth rate that hopefully the jobs will continue to be around. It's not a shrinking occupation. And then, like I said, you can see that it's growing at about 1.9%. And then there's about 1,300 job openings. Again, this is statewide data. So of course he'd want to drill in on the location which he's choosing to live in ultimately. But again, important information to kind of understand. So, and then he sees the video. So we have about 500 videos loaded in NC Careers. These are out of Career One Stop. So again, we just brought them in the system. These are nationally created videos. So they give they're a great job, you can see this is a minute 15. Most of them are in the ballpark of 90 seconds to 2 minutes. Great quick overview for students if they're not going to necessarily read all of the information, but they can to kind of tap their interests. So he thinks about that and he says, you know what, let me explore a little bit more about dental assistants. Where can I get some training? And number one, what do I need to get training in? So we can see the associated program or major is dental assisting. So he clicks on dental assisting. And as I promised a minute ago, this is our program locator tool. When you click on the occupation profile, dental assistant, you can see that there's 18 colleges and universities in North Carolina that offer this degree program. So here's the list of community colleges that offer dental assisting programs. So he can find one that is near him. And again, to learn more detailed information on the student, so when you click on one of the schools, it comes up with a really quick block of location, and then a URL to College Foundation of North Carolina, so you can learn more detailed information on the school. So he saw that there's a significant number of job openings, of job growth rate. He wanted to kind of see, okay, so who is hiring for this job right now, kind of in our area? So he can click on the occupation profile, view available jobs, takes him to a list of the people who are hiring right now. Just got a good idea of kind of who's hiring and where jobs might possibly be. So, but again, you remember his thought process was he really was interested in healthcare. Dental hygienist was kind of his first thought process. So is working as a dental assistant, is that going to lead to working as a dental hygienist? If he clicks on the next step tool in the plan my career section, as I talked about, which is down here on the bottom, he can click and see get started. He can see the occupations. So dental assistant is your current job. And then up and to the right are the occupations that are linked and are considered a next step up from the current job, which here is dental assistant. So you can see that there's surgical technologist, radiologic technologist, dental hygienist is one. So that, of course, got him excited. And you can click on it, and what it'll do is it'll actually compare occupations side by side. So median annual wage of 45 for a dental assistant, going up to close to 70, or closer to, or over 72 for a dental hygienist, again, on a statewide level. And then education. So again, he already knew that the dental assistant was a post-secondary non-degree award. Dental hygienist, they're looking for an associate degree. So again, kind of understanding. And then the experience is about the same. And then the additional knowledge that is needed for dental hygienists, as well as the additional skills that are needed to work as a dental hygienist on, above a dental assistant. So again, he has lots of information to understand and create a journey. Now, with Next Step tool, he could actually see, if he wanted to see what a potential step beyond a dental hygienist would be, he could continue through that tool until the data runs out. So you could create, ultimately a potential career plan kind of moving forward using the Next Step and/or First Step tool. So again, he spent all of his time looking at dental assistants. So you know what? He wants to spend some time researching the dental hygienist to make sure that the data and that everything that he thought he understood about dental hygienists is true. So he can click on the word dental hygienist, and that'll take him to the occupation profile, of which I did not do. But again, so just to show how you can kind of continue that career exploration, and it just kind of continues until you ultimately run out of data within that potential line. So now that I've kind of given you an overview of NC Careers, shown a potential example of how it could really help an individual understand careers and explore and really align potential education with careers and matching from there to help make good decisions. So hopefully you're thinking, okay, so this is great. So my faculty staff might be interested in bringing NC Careers into their curriculum. Is there a good way to do that? Do they need to just learn it themselves? No. Last summer, we hired 3 educators throughout the state, from across the state, highly experienced, and they wrote 66 unique lesson plans and activities that are available and free for downloading. You download them as a PowerPoint file, edit them, fit them into your particular curriculum, cut and paste, combine. However, we just wanted to give educators an opportunity to have this information and not have to create it themselves. So, and when they wrote them, we asked them specifically to write them for multiple levels, to scaffold them. So, the first level is really considered that late elementary and/or middle school. Then we had high school level, and then we had post-secondary. And with post-secondary, we asked them to, write them specifically with whether it's community college, whether it's a 4-year university, whether it's, the NC Works Career Centers, or maybe DHHS in the voc rehab, working with individuals that are beyond higher education, kind of to help them understand how to use NC Careers. So hopefully you're thinking, wow, where are those lesson plans? How can I get my hands on them? If you just on the footer of NC Careers of every page is the same footer. If you click on the educator resources link, then it'll bring you to this page here on the right, and then you can download and access all of the lesson plans. You can download them by the topics, which I have here on the left, which again are all the major features of NC Careers. You can download them by grade as well. So I talked about NC Careers. So let me go ahead and pause here for a second, see if there are any other questions. And then the last, maybe 5, 8, 10 minutes, I wanted to kind of give you a tool. So again, NC Careers is really designed specifically for an individual job seeker that can be very useful for educators or counselors or whoever to help guide individual job seekers. But we also have some tools that are have all this labor market information aggregated in a different format that may be useful for administrators to help drive decisions. But before I get to that, Dr. Hickman, are there any questions or anybody have any questions that I can share?
Yes, one is if job growth shows 1.9%, should we discourage the students from pursuing that career or look for one with more growth?
So again, focusing on the number is kind of tough because it's the number is relative. So let's look at that star rating. If again, the 1.9% could be a pretty high number depending. Let's look at that job growth number. So I'm going to spin that question just a little bit. If it's a low growth occupation, not necessarily. Number one, it may truly align with their interests. And then there's also regional differences within occupations to where the aggregate data may be showing that this occupation may be in decline, but that doesn't mean there aren't still opportunities to get hired. Something that I think is kind of important is keeping the eye on the big picture, that especially if you're looking at a low growth an occupation that is low growth, or maybe even seeing negative growth.
I did just check, and it said we had one for 123.
Sorry. Okay, so maybe even negative growth, but don't discourage them from that, but encourage them to keep their options open. So maybe that's an occupation where they recognize that it's a low growth occupation, but what's their next step? Can they move into, can they gain skills in that low growth occupation that then put them in a higher occupation? They don't, that might be something that they don't want to necessarily look for the short term, or that'd be a great thing to look for the short term, but not for the long term. Did that answer your question?
I think it did.
Okay, absolutely. And if I can explain it more, please ask me questions. But yeah, that's a very good question. So yeah, just kind of understanding, keeping that big picture of, you don't want to just be in an occupation for years. You want to continually to figure out how to grow. And also, I would also say, looking at those 1 or 2 star jobs, maybe those are the occupations that you look at for the exact same way. The 3 to 5 star jobs are more the occupations that maybe you do long-term training for, as to the 1 and the 2 stars are more, hey, this is where I start, and then look to move forward. So that's a great question. Any other questions?
That is it for that one.
Okay. Absolutely. So let me kind of move forward. So like I said, NC Careers is a tool that's really focused more on an individual job seeker and kind of an enhancement, a tool that educators can use to help individual students. So this data, again, but there's lots and lots and lots of valuable tools. We just talked about it with, star jobs and lots of great information that's important to understand for helping make programmatic decisions as well. So there is an individual star jobs tool where you can compare occupations side by side for your region. So you can see the URL at the bottom. And again, I'll share these slides with Dr. Hickman at the end. He can email them out to the group, and my contact information is on here as well. I'm always happy to help you interpret, access this data and things. If you click on, accessing NC Star Jobs tools at tools.nccareers.org/star jobs. If you click on the filter button here in the top right, you can see how you can filter and look at multiple different ways. So you can look at by region, you can look at, hey, I only want to see the 3-star and above. You can sort it by salary. Again, all the ways that you could sort it within NC Careers. And then what you do is you download it in an Excel spreadsheet. And so therefore that data is there for you to be able to further manipulate and things. So for helping make those decisions. There's also NC employment projections. So star jobs for the occupations is probably going to be the most comprehensive tool and the easiest to use in terms of looking at those projections. But the employment projections, so we create them every 2 years for 10-year periods moving forward. Right now, we actually just released the 2020 to 2030 employment projections for statewide. We don't have the regional information yet. One of the things that we found is that 2020, as we all know, was a COVID year. So therefore, the starting data was a little bit wonky based on because of impacts to the economy due to COVID. So we're going to go back and reevaluate some of that data that's out there. So if you are looking at that 2020 to 2030 employment projections, just recognize that there's some of it's a little bit wonky, and we are going to reevaluate and reconsider some of that data that's out there. But with employment projections, so we produce them at the industry level, kind of the employer level, also at the occupation level. So like I said, star jobs is probably, if you're looking at the occupations, that for growth, you want to look more at star jobs. But if you want to understand the industries in your area or that are particularly growing in North Carolina, or as I said, your area, you'd want to look at North Carolina employment projections. And again, you can choose your geography, and then you choose your NAICS code, so your industry code. And then again, you can download as an Excel or CSV to manipulate and work with. There's another site full of Tableau visualizations called analytics.nccommerce.com. There's a wealth of information here that hopefully you're already accessing and maybe you don't realize you're accessing at this point. So we have every month we provide an overview of the North Carolina economy called NC Today that is released when the new North Carolina unemployment rates are released. And in that information, so as I mentioned, it's updated monthly. So we have North Carolina unemployment rates and trends. We also have key economic indicators and trends kind of here. So again, so here's a great snapshot that you can look at of what's going on in the economy right now that for, again, the state of North Carolina. Second one is the overview of the supply versus demand for labor in North Carolina. You heard me mention a few minutes ago in terms of, now our current supply, labor supply and demand is a little bit tight. There are significantly more job openings than there are job seekers, which means the employers don't have a lot of pick. It's the employees are the ones that get to pick and choose. So to help quantify that in this tool, you can see the number of job seekers per job opening by region, and this is this is the most recent data that's available. The annual 2021. You can also get the monthly data. Again, you can understand the number of job seekers by the number of job openings, kind of with a ratio. It helps you understand labor tightness. And then again, there's also regional data that you can look at. You can look at it by occupations at the occupational level. And then you can also look at it by career cluster. So there's a lot of good information that you can gather and look in that. Third, within analytics.nccommerce.com is the unemployment insurance claims dashboard. So again, especially when COVID first started, the unemployment rate, which lags in terms of the current data, the unemployment claims was the most common, most current data that we could look at to get an idea of what was going on with the snapshot. So we created this monthly update for the unemployment claims data, where you can look at the number of UI claims, whether that's initial or well as continued claimants. And then you can look at it at statewide, workforce development board, or county level. And then also here on the left, you can see that we have demographic info at those geographies as well. So understanding that information that is available. Next, we have regional monthly labor market overviews. So these are currently available for the Workforce Development Board level. We're working at maybe doing some other geographies as well, but right now it's at the Workforce Development Board level, labor market overviews, and the brand new ones just came out. The July 2022 sub-state unemployment rates actually came out today at 10 o'clock. So the brand new data, and actually this is, oh, so good, I did grab the July data. So the brand new data is out there, and you can see that, again, this is the Workforce Development Board level economic overview. They are updated monthly, again, as the sub-state data comes out. You have your unemployment rates, your retail sales data, total number of jobs, as well as job openings, some quick data about who's hiring in the area, as well as what jobs, the occupations that are being hired for as well. And then finally, the last two. So I already talked about employment and industry occupational, as well as industry employment projections. There's some visualizations that you can access through analytics.ncommerce.com, as opposed to crunching the numbers yourself in the employment projections tool that I showed you. So again, that was a really quick overview. I really hit a lot of the highlights. I could have probably talked for 2 hours at least on a lot of this information. But again, my goal here was to give you an overview of the information that's available. Hopefully you're accessing and using a lot of it. If you're not, again, that worksheet that I gave you the access and quick brief information that's available within the tools. There's my email address. I am happy to help you interpret, understand, access information as well. So again,
Couple
thank you
questions.
with
Couple
questions.
questions. It said, this has been a wonderful overview. Will we be able to share this recording outside of our community colleges?
Absolutely.
If you want to, that's fine. They also asked, was it recording in Spanish? It's not. But Jamie, if someone wants to, from the colleges, invite you to an outside agency outside of community colleges, is that something you'd be willing to go to?
Absolutely happy to do it.
Okay, so
Pending
Diane,
funding
if you have something outside
please.
of community college, is it Mr. Vaughn would be glad to come?
Yep.
Also, if you have, and I'll put this out here, out there. I am a part of a committee with Mr. Vaughn for the communications committee for this. And one thing they're looking at identifying is probably individuals who are willing or able to translate this information to Spanish. That's the conversation we've been having. And I know resources sometimes is not permitted. So if you know of anyone who's able to translate this to Spanish, please get in touch with Mr. Vaughn, and he'll be elated to entertain that and see if there's a way to do that.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for that plug, Dr. Aikman.
No problem.
There was one other question about, can I find the monthly UI rates for current year only? Yes, you can see past years as well. So just access the tool. I haven't been in that tool for a while, but yes, there is some older data as well. I'm not sure exactly how far it goes.
Okay.
But yes.
Someone also asked, oh, I'm sorry, you're still talking. I apologize.
No, you're good.
Someone also asked, have you printed the STAR booklets yet so they can get them for the career services?
Not yet. No, we will, we've got to get the new STAR jobs data will come out probably, knock on wood, hopefully in January, and then we will work on the new, on the STAR jobs booklets at that point.
Right. And I will say that this presentation was on PowerPoint. So if you go into the website, which is nccareers.org, you can navigate and play with it. The website a lot, and it's really easy to play with and fun to play with if you go into the website itself. And it's nccareers.org.
Yep. Thank you, Diane, for commenting. Sorry, Dr. Aikman. Diane Dickerson commented that the translator button in the top right. Thank you. I should have mentioned that when that question was there. So that's using Google Translate. So take that with a grain of salt.
Right.
There are some challenges with Google Translate, but it works reasonably well, as I've been told by native, well, in Spanish, honestly. And it translates to, I think it's the 8 most common languages spoken in North Carolina. Yeah. So it's not just Spanish.
Yeah. And there has been some dialogue around that with the community.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Yeah. We're looking to make that a little bit more accessible, and we're working on that.
Yeah. The recording, yes. Once we finish, I'm going to have this recording converted to YouTube video and send it out to everyone. And the PowerPoint presentation is in the calendar invite. So if you go back to the calendar invite, I attached it and sent it out again. So you should have it now. So, Mr. Vaughn, anything else, sir?
Nope, I think we're good. And like I said, I'm happy to answer questions. I see several of my people that I work with quite often. It's great to see everybody.
Okay, great. That's wonderful. Well, we all want to thank Mr. Vaughn for taking his time out for this. Look at my camera on while I talk to him. For taking this time out to talk to us today. I will see him again very soon at some of our meetings and stuff, but I know some of you have not had the opportunity to meet him. So this is Jamie Vaughn. So when you hear the name,
Absolutely.
that's who he is. NC Careers and Department of Commerce. And we'll again thank you for taking your time out to talk to us, sir. Great
Absolutely.
information.
Thank you.
Great.
It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it, everybody. Thanks for the
It is.
questions too.
It
And
is.
again, feel free to reach out if you have more questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Stop this recording now. So if you have questions that you are not comfortable with asking, I have now stopped the recording.